I want to take you on a little journey from the point where we founded our company in 2012 up to now. And I want to tell you something about how we always had a look on innovation and developing innovation processes, and which facts we learned on that journey, how we could always innovate our product, and finally, still in a company with 200 people, we found a way now to not distracting our product, but still driving the innovation to grow. So my name is Florian, and I'm a co-founder, and currently I'm technology evangelist at Lavoo. But before I was engineer, I think since 16 years or something like that. And as we founded Lavoo, I've been the iOS developer, and then grew up the iOS team, then became like front-end CTO, and now I have changed the position. And to tell something about Lavoo, we currently have reached the 50 million registered users. We have like 6.5 million active users every month in whole Europe and Southern America. We are available in 60 languages, so we're very international. I think there's a little bit space to grow in this country here, but especially in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, we are already very successful. And yeah, it's very, at the beginning already, it has been very interesting that we have been 7 founders that created Lavoo. We have been a very small and cross-functional team at this time. And we took the advantage of this, that we have had professions in very different areas, like marketing, software engineering, design, product management, and stuff like that, to be able to act very lean also at the beginning. And we released our first version after, I think, 3 months, and had a lot of publicity at this time. And after 1 week, we had already 10,000 users. So this was really a great time. And after 1 year, we had 1 million users. So we have been very successful at this time, and have been updating our product very fast. This worked very well. And as the company grew up, it became always harder to make large changes on the product. And so the biggest challenges from within the last 4 years, from a company from 7 people to 200 people, have been to scale all our teams, the tech teams, which basically have been engineers at the beginning, and the engineers became to team leads and to team heads and stuff like that. This has been very challenging. So currently our tech team is like 120 people. This is really big if you're not used to it. And all of our co-founders are learned the stuff by doing it. So I think only 2 of us have been going to a university, for example. And yeah, also it's very hard and very challenging to always keep the eye on the customer needs, because as a stakeholder, you always think, oh, this is, for example, at the beginning, we founded Lavoo, we thought there's no cool product with which we could find people nearby. In 2011, 2012, it was not so usual that you use your smartphone to discover people nearby. So we thought this could be very cool, and it was a real use case we had at this time. But also later on, we had many ideas how we could improve the product further. And it's always hard, as like a product owner, you should be able to say no very often. And this was also a great challenge at this time. Yeah, staying innovative was also very challenging, because as the company grew up, every big change has also a big impact on our users. And if you have 50 million users, you cannot just change the whole product all the time. So out of these different challenges, I've extracted some parts concerning innovation and company structure, which maybe give you some insights and help if you have the same challenges, so you may like to use it. Innovation at the beginning of a startup is basically the source of it, because you have a new idea and you see a customer need, you combine it, and then it may work. And if the product really works and you see after some experiments that you found like a gold mine, then you can just acquire users and get viral, and then the product grows. So this is like a success story. This works, can work, and after that, you just go on doing this. And it was a little bit this case with Lavu. And we thought, okay, if we now continue adding more features to our product which are cool, then the product will get better and better, and we will reach more users over time. But this was actually not a very good idea. And for example, currently Lavu is just like you have a radar, you find people around, you have a match where you can swipe left and right to find people, and you get profile visitors, and you can directly interact with your environment. So it's not like, for example, Tinder, where you have to have a match to get in touch with someone. It's that you can directly discover your environment. And at the beginning, we had so many different other features, like a dating coach which was integrated, and we had like a mode where friends can come together and take care of each other while having a date, and so many other stuff. I think we had 9 core features within one app, and today we have apps which have basically one funnel and one feature. So yeah, we tried to integrate everything which we found cool. And because we had not so many users at the beginning, and the market was not so full of different other apps in this area, it still worked. But today we cannot. This is something we cannot continue, because it's distracting our users very much if we change the funnel all the time. And one example for this is that we introduced, I think last 1 year ago, we tried to introduce some social features within our app. And Lavu is basically a dating app, and we try to integrate features like follow someone, like people's pictures and stuff like that, because we thought, okay, that could be cool that people come together and just post their pictures and maybe become a little famous, like Instagram and stuff like that. This is basically a funnel that works, but it does not work if you combine it with a product like dating, because the expectations are totally different if you come to a platform just to upload your picture, get likes on it, and then someone is asking you if you want to go on a date. So this is something we learned out of this. And another thing is that we took very much effort and a lot of time to integrate these features to finally recognize that it does not work. So this was a great learning, that you should try out these little things very quick, go live, go on the market and see if it's working within a small area. For example, in our case, we could try out features within Austria, and our core market is Germany, to see if it's working, because the markets are similar. Or if you're more international, you could try it in United Kingdom and then roll it in the US. So these are ways to check if your new ideas may work. Yeah, and also, as I said before, if you finally have a direction and you know which funnel works for you and for your customers, and you grow up, it's hard to change this direction. And as I said, with our version where we integrated the social features, this was a totally different direction, and the users went away, they churned because the product changed too much. So you have, on the one hand, you have cool ideas, and you have a team, in our case, of 7 founders who always give new input into the product stream. And on the other hand, you have a product which is working for one specific funnel. And at this point, you have to think about how you can combine innovation and the performance of your existing product in a way that is useful for every stakeholder. Because innovation still can push your company. And the question is, where should you integrate these new ideas, and where should you work on it? And I think it's a matter of perspective in this case, because you have to think about where do you want to implement your innovative ideas? Do you want to make it inside your existing product, or do you want to just grow your company? And if you just want to grow your company, or for example, first the other example, if you just want to grow your or make your product better, then it's in our case we started a lot of optimizations on our company structure and our team structure to get a little bit more of this feeling back we had in the beginning as we founded Lavu. Because after I think 2 2.5 years, we had like 50, 60 developers, and we have been working in platform teams. We had an iOS team, an Android team, and backend team, and stuff like that. It was innovative at this time, but it was very hard to get rid of blockers we had in different departments. So if, for example, the backend team couldn't work at this time, the whole company was blocked. And so we thought, okay, we should find a way to make little independent teams as we had at the beginning when we founded Lavoo, so that in this case, if someone is blocked, only the team gets blocked and not the whole company. And after that, we had cross-functional teams we tried to integrate, and we integrated feature teams which have been working on different feature streams of the app. For example, we had a chat team, a messenger team, we had a retention team, we had an onboarding team, and stuff like that. That was also working very good. But at this point, we learned, okay, if we have teams that are dedicated to one single part of the application, they may fetch and create tasks just because they are within this team. So if you have your messenger team and your messenger works great, the messenger team will still create new tasks for this messenger, even if it's working good. So the next step was, how could we solve this problem? And currently we're working on integrating less large-scale Scrum, where it's a little bit different, where you still have cross-functional feature teams, but they pull all their tasks from one big company backlog, where you have only one product owner for the whole company and not for each feature team. And the teams just pull their tasks from this large backlog and do this based on their profession within the team. So this, we're currently implementing this, so I have no final results, but at the moment it looks like this is also a good improvisation of improvement of this. And one thing concerning this, it's very good if you change processes within your company that you get feedback from outside. So you have like an expert or a coach who did it a lot of times, and you can help you. Because we did it like, one example is the Spotify model. When we integrated the feature teams, we looked at Spotify because they're doing it very well. They're a company with thousands of employees and a very big product development team. And they made their team structure public. And we tried to adopt it, but didn't look at detail how big the company was in contrast to our company. And also all these little details you need to apply when you do change management within your company become very important at some time. And at this time, it's very good if you have external help. So if you do something like that anytime, it's very good to get a coach or anyone who did it sometimes before can help you at hard moments. And on the other hand, if you want to grow your company, so not only your product you already have, which is what we're trying to do within the last 1 or 2 years, then it's we started like creating islands where small teams can work together on very specific problems and are not distracted by our existing infrastructure and processes we already had. So you could think of it like being in your own incubator. You create place, you create space where new ideas can establish and grow small and fast. And when you see that something is working, you can scale it. And in our case, we had the first experiment, I think, 1 year ago to just prove if the change at itself is working, to have like a little startup within the startup. And then at the beginning of this year, we started with 3 new teams who are working on 3 different ideas we had, how we could improve basically Lavoo at the beginning. And we thought, okay, we cannot change the product all the time, and we don't know if our new ideas and changes will work. So we created 3 teams working on 3 different feature streams that could improve the product and could improve the whole company to grow it. And these teams are very small. They are like 3 to, on a game team, it's like 10 people. and they're totally isolated from our company processes we have in different teams. They have their own infrastructure, they have their own product processes, they have their own Jira boards and Confluence environment and stuff like that. At the beginning, this looks really distracting for the people because they feel like, okay, we are not inside the company anymore, but it's not the fact, they are still there. And after 1 week already, because all these blockers you have when you have such a big company where you have to ask your head and he has to ask his C-level if something is possible to do. For example, if we want to set up a new deployment environment, currently in our Lavoo infrastructure, it takes until the final approval is there 1 or 2 weeks until you can start. And if you have a small team and you're, for example, working with Heroku as a cloud-based development and deployment system, you can do this within minutes without having to ask someone to do that. So this just works on small teams, and it's very important that we have this big infrastructure on Lavoo to be stable and to be able to scale and stuff like that. But if you just want to try out new ideas, it's very cool and nice to be flexible and fast, and this is something we found out at this time. And with our 3 teams, we have already very interesting made very interesting experiences. So it's like a little case study, and I want to tell you something more about that and how we finally can integrate our results into the company. So the first the first team is on a little game, which is at the first moment totally different to a dating app, but it brings a lot of cool advantages if you think of it like being together in an ecosystem. Because within the game, you can play together with friends if it's a multiplayer game. For example, Tiny Armies is a multiplayer game where you can play with different people, with your friends or strangers and stuff like that. And the idea is, if this works, that we can have like a cross-usage between the game and Lavoo, where people can play together and finally play together with people who are nearby, for example. Play together with them and then get in contact and touch, and finally maybe they could meet. But the basic funnel is that just play the game together. And it's also possible that these people try to invite their friends, which is not working at Lavoo, because Lavoo is a dating app and you may not want to have all your friends together with you if you want to go on a date, for example. And also, you can just reach more people, because Lavoo is an app which targets on people from 20 to 35, and a game could be used by people who are much younger or older, and then when they grow, they can become customer of Lavoo. So you can start bringing them in touch with your brand at this time already. So this is a very different approach. Another approach which is very near to the dating funnel we already have, and which is the first time we try out something which typically would be integrated into the Lavoo app itself, is now. We are working on it since the beginning of the year, and it's about the real-time experience where you can say, I want to right now go out for bicycling or for having a dinner or doing some sports or stuff like that, going out, and want to look for someone who can join. Where you have only a small time window to meet, and it's location-based. So there are different things we try to integrate with which solve problems we saw within Lavoo. For example, that you have ghosting, because we know it from different, especially dating applications, when people come together and are chatting with multiple people at the same time, and finally just date 1 or 2 of them. The other ones won't get any answers at some time anymore. And people really have a bad user experience then. So this is one thing we wanted to solve, that we only bring 1 people together with someone else, and if they don't like each other, they can quit this conversation and stop talking to each other anymore. But this is a clear decision, and not the bad ghosting experience we have at Lavoo. And another thing is that you bring people together to have who have the same idea of what will happen when they meet, which is also very difficult in the case of Lavoo, where everyone can reach everyone, and it's not really based on the time frame. So all these different things are would totally distract our Lavoo app if we integrated within it. And years before we did it like that, and we have made one big, not only one, we have made many learnings out of that. As I said, the version where we integrated social features, and before we had a version where we, a different app where we integrated or extracted a feature of Lavoo which had the same target. But finally, all these things we did at this time blocked our whole company development and the product development, because the people who are working on it were within the product development team of the main application. And at this point, it's different, because we roll out this thing and we will see if it works, and maybe we will change a little bit of the main funnel. But if we see it will not work after, for example, 6 months, then we can just drop it. And the worst thing is that we have 4 or 5 people working on a new topic in a company with 200 people, and that's all. You didn't block your whole system. And another thing is you get a lot of new knowledge and experience if you have a lot of little startups within your company, because in the case of Lavoo, you have fixed technologies. For example, for our backend, we use Go and PHP, and we have iOS and Android in the front end. And that's all. It's not very easy to try out a new technology just to have a look on it. But if you work on different dedicated teams who are separate from that, you can, for example, in this case, at Now, we have used a lot of cloud technologies for our backend, for messaging, and stuff like that. We have combined a lot of different frameworks just to go out as soon as possible, not with the main focus on that the software will be scalable in 2 years, but just to know if it works or not, and if the idea is working good. So also this is a learning that if you just want to try out an idea, it's not important that you create everything on your own, that you write your own backend push messaging system or real-time socket messaging system or stuff like that. You can just try it out, and if you see it works, then you have a lot of time to replace these, for example, in this case, cloud technologies by your own technologies. And if we see, for example, at Now this works, we can move it to our existing infrastructure, use our existing backend technologies to make it faster and scalable, but then we already have the proof that it works. Another app is a personality coach, which has the goal that the people learn to communicate in a better way, especially the men on our platform sometimes are not so nice. And it really helps if they get some advices and know how to be more friendly, for example. But also, this could create a bridge between the phase when you are looking for someone and when you are in a relationship. Because the main problem of Lavoo is if it works very well, then the people will churn. And this is something we already all the time have to work on. You see, everything is cool, and the user numbers are raising all the time. But at every time, at some point, the people churn. Sometimes at 2 days, sometimes at 4 weeks or 3 months, but they churn. And a lot of them are sending us their stories that they don't have a baby or are very happy in a relationship. And this is really cool because this is the main funnel of the product. And the first time you think, how can we extend this funnel? Because we want to have the users longer within our app. But this is not the idea of a get-to-know app. So at this time, a new app which just is at your side while you're in a relationship or while you're looking for new people could be a solution for that. We don't know it, we will see it. And we will try it out. And also here we have tried out new technologies, in this case Xamarin for making a cross-platform application written in C# to see if this technology would work for us good in the future. So again, a totally different approach as on the other 2 applications, just to see if this one could be good for us, and also to have a clear focus on the idea itself. And as I said before, you always get something for free, which is the learnings you get out of it, and the new knowledge about the technologies you integrated. So I think it's the company scale of 100, 150 people. It's already a good time to think about integrating like these little dedicated startups or feature teams who are totally isolated from the others. Once I've been at a gaming company in Berlin, and like VUGA, maybe you know it, and they also do it from the first time. That I found also very interesting. They have, I think, 20 or 30 teams, and all of the teams have their own infrastructure and own technology. And this is what was also a very good proof before we integrated it, that this may be scalable very good if you have dedicated, separated teams who can choose their own tools, their own technologies, their own workflows, if it's Scrum or Kanban or anything else. They are just working together as we did at the beginning, so they can choose and try out their own ways to develop things. This is a very cool thing. And during this process, we also learned something concerning the lean approach. Because as we started Lavu, if we look back, at this time we didn't know what lean actually means, but we just did it. We went small steps and updated early and took a look on the results. But we didn't really recognize what we were doing at this time. So now we have like a list what we can bring back to our minds all the time, how we can make sure that we don't do the same mistakes all the time again. So one is that you always look on the customer and on the main funnel you're trying to the main problem you're trying to solve. What is the use case for the customer, and not what is the use case for the stakeholder? Because if you always want to try to make the stakeholder happy, and in our case it was that our basic idea comes from the stakeholders. So we thought if we always listen on our gut feelings, then it will always be a good thing. But later on we worked, okay, we have to take a look on our customers, have to do user research to get more insights in what the users are actually doing when they're using our app, and also to detect if there are maybe special use cases we have never been thinking about before. So this is very important. And also, in this case, you have to look on the data and the results you get out of the actual usage. And you also have to understand your audience. So you have a good idea maybe to, if you have different user stories or how different personas within your app interact with it and how they experience it. You can visualize these with frames in your office and place these different user stories there, that you always have a look on it. How do users and your audience, your people using your app, interact with it, so that you always keep mind on that and don't integrate features that are totally different because you just forgot how they use it. And this can happen if you have a large company with so many different employees, so they have all the different understandings of how the application works and stuff like that. Yeah, that's almost the same, so you have to keep focus on your main funnel. Also very important is if you do measurements and you do analytics and A/B testing and stuff like that, which is all cool, and we're also doing it, that does not finally mean that it helps if you do not right, if you don't do it right, because if you look from the wrong perspective on the data you get from your tools, that may lead you to the wrong decisions. So at this point, it's very important to have experts who really understand how this works, to take the right conclusions out of it, to have a look out of different perspectives on the usage of your app, to come to the right decisions and conclusions at the end. And also, of course, this is a very basic approach if you want to develop your product in a lean way, that you roll out early and get your results very soon. But this is theory, and in our case, we always did it again to spend a lot of time on new technologies, new features we wanted to integrate. And finally, after 2-3 months, there was some time we wanted to renew our match experience. where the people could play this game, which we are currently have in our app, in a totally different way. And we spent, I think, 3 months to just create it totally new. The first idea was it will take 1 week and then we'll go out, but finally it took 3 months. And then we rolled it out and saw, okay, this is not working. And we spent a lot of time with a lot of people to create this with very nice animations and very detailed updates and stuff like that to finally see this is not working. So it's always important to think about how could we find a way to try out our basic idea, update, feature, new product, stuff like that, with a really effective MVP that shows if the basic idea is working or not, or the thing why you are thinking this is an improvement of your product, or this can help your customer to solve his problem in a better way, to find this out very early, and then if you have the proof, you go on and implement it in a more detailed and more sophisticated way. Yeah, another thing is learn from your mistakes. So if you recognize, which is also very important, just to recognize your mistakes. If you recognize them, that you keep it in mind. It could be a good idea also to create like posters out of it, or your lead create values out of the mistakes you did, so that you don't do these mistakes again. For example, not following the rules you created for your company, or if you don't, if you, for example, don't use the right measurements, and this is something you do all the time, then maybe you just print it out very large, measure everything in the right way, and put it on your main office. Another thing, and this is something we always have again, we just recently had it, is you don't have to try to solve problems that you did not actually recognize. So for example, we are at the Now app we're currently working on, we thought, okay, this could be a very interesting funnel to meet people at the real time with one-on-one conversations and stuff like that. And then we thought, maybe it's a too hard focus for the user. Maybe we should change it, but we didn't release it already. So we don't know if it's really a problem for the user. We have to wait for it to see the results, and then we can change it. And this is sounds very easy, but it's always happening again that we try to solve problems that we didn't really recognize already. And finally, this is also very important. New is not always better. So it's besides on innovation, it could also just be good to use existing technologies, existing frameworks, and combinations out of it to create new stuff. And yeah, I think this is my time is over in 5 minutes. So we'll go to the last slide, and if you have, that's all from my side. And if you have any questions, then just feel free to ask. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Also can repeat. So the question. Yeah.
Oh, does it work? Oh, okay. I'd like to ask about the startup teams. Like, how do they form? Who does actually? Who is in these teams? Like, do they form like? You have people in the company, they have like an idea, they go to someone and say they have an idea and they would like to like get an environment to make it, or does it like go from upwards, and are they completely autonomous? Like, do they have enough knowledge to make the idea by themselves, or do they need outside help? Are they more like junior members of the team, or like the more senior ones?
Okay. Yeah, this is a very complex question and needs a very complex answer. I try to bring it together, and we can talk about it after the session. Basically, in our case, the ideas came from the management, that we have a strategy we want to follow, and there are new different approaches how the company could grow. And because we have a very flat hierarchy, so it's not that someone says you have to do it, but it's more like people, many people know about that. This is the strategy, and then you talk together with people who may fit in this team and ask them if they want to join and if this is a fit for them. And also in our case, it's very interesting because our 7 founders, our entrepreneurs, and now we have a big company with a lot of managers, and it's not always that a good entrepreneur is a good manager. So a lot of us from the founder side decided to go back to this early stage and the startup feeling, and also joined these teams. So currently we have one founder, at least one founder in every of these little teams, to create new startups, and this is working real well. And also the founders are more happy now. Yeah, and as we integrated, for example, feature teams where we had the same task, who could join to which team, we let the people decide. So we just had created topics together with the people, and then we let them on their own decide to which team they want to align and which they would most likely apply to. And concerning the knowledge within the teams, currently we have, based on the people who are in it, specialists on the technologies that we use to implement this. So they have all the knowledge they need, and still they can ask all other people from the company. So it's not that they are in a different building, in a different office, they are still in the same building, and they exchange their knowledge to get help if they need it. Yeah. Yeah?
Okay, so how did you overcome chicken and egg problem at the beginning?
You mean concerning the user base?
Yeah, because you are dating app, and so I'm just wondering.
Yeah, this is also a very interesting question, because we are location-based. The app only makes sense and fun if you have a lot of people around. And yeah, we had in 2012 there has not been so many applications, so you get just by offering an app, you get some traction. Now it's different. You need to do a lot of user acquisition and marketing. But at this time, it was just good to be there and have a good dating app. And we got featured by the different app stores. But we also had a great luck from German press and television. So after 1 week, we got a television report on the news at 8 p.m., for example, and this spread, and then different newspapers and magazines wrote about it, and it spread from itself. And we just had at this time, I think, because we don't have any money, we were bootstrapped. We just spent very small amount of money on little television ads at night, which were very cheap. And this was enough to create this critical mass in the different cities, and then it grew from itself. And now, as we reach new countries, we just use Facebook marketing and targeting on the different cities to grow there. Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.